For more on this story, we now joined via Skype by Oussama Senouci, an Algerian journalist. A very good evening to you, Oussama. Thank you so much for joining us. We understand that the opposition will now be allowed to take part in the cabinet that will oversee the elections. How has it accepted? I mean, how is the process planned to unfold going forward?
Well, the people would be surprised if the opposition is not taking part of this, what the government called the national conference that would bring all parties together and oversee the elections. But so far, we don't have a date for the elections, and people are not do not accept Abdelaziz Bouteflika's bid to extend his fourth mandate and postpone the elections. It was an unconstitutional move, and people are enraged because of that. And you've seen last Friday, millions of people took the streets against this move from Abdelaziz Bouteflika. Just in the capital, Algiers, the number was estimated at 2 million protesters. Today, for example, students and workers from the health sector also took to the streets, denouncing this move and calling on the president to step down and his regime. As you said, the opposition so far, we don't know what is going to be the next move from the opposition, because they're just observant and they don't want to take decisions that would not serve the people. They don't want to make decisions that would lead to uncertainty. For example, lots of meetings for the opposition were held, but they all failed. And there is people also who want to have representatives for these protests, but lots of experts say that it's a mistake if they do it at this time, because there would be personal interest, and that would not represent the will of the people.
Who exactly, after President Bouteflika, does the opposition want to see out of the picture of the ruling Politburo in the country?
But when we say the opposition, we're talking about the people here, because people are the real opposition right now. And it's very clear what the people want. It's not just President Bouteflika. They want the whole regime to go away. They want a fresh start. They want the FLN gone, the National Liberation Front, a party which has been ruling Algeria since 1962, right after the independence. And they want a fresh start. They want new faces. They want young faces. Algeria is a young population. The age average in Algeria is 28, and we are being ruled by a president who just celebrated his 82nd birthday. We want a fresh start, and the opposition wants to see people from the civil society, people like, there are some names here and there are some people forming, there is an opposition, and they are really the elite, and so they want the whole regime, the entire regime to be, they want it gone. For example, the newly appointed Prime Minister Nouraddin Tebboune has really failed recently to form a new government. So after the resignation of Ahmed Ouyahia, which is also a strange situation, that because supposedly, since the Prime Minister resigned, his cabinet is supposed to resign as well. But that did not happen. But now the new Prime Minister Nouraddin Bedwi failed big time to form a new government. He called on lots of workers in unions to have consultation meetings, to appoint ministers from their part, but everybody refused, and everybody said that they support the people, not the regime.
Are the opposition demands not leading the country perhaps to a possible stalemate and a return to differences and possible violence?
It's very possible. It's very possible, but I don't think that Algerians want to go to violence. We've lived violence for over 10 years back in the 1990s in the civil war that claimed the lives of 200,000 people. So people since that time, since President Bouteflika brought the national reconciliation and people came back from the mountains and they were integrated or reintegrated into society, and fear and violence was terminated and was over. But it is still in the heads of people. It is still in their memories. People cannot forget that dark decade, and they don't really want to go back to violence. But on the other hand, they also understand now that it's time for freedom. They think that it's the best opportunity now either now or never. So they're not going to stop, and it's peaceful so far, and it probably could go to uncertainty. But, for example, one threat would be political Islam. But Algerians, I believe that Algerians do not believe in political Islam anymore, because they've had their lesson and they don't really want to go back to violence. It's going to be peaceful until their demands are answered. And probably the regime will give in, because they really don't have any more options. They don't have any more cards to play. And as you said, for example, as you see, they are bidding for international support, since, for example, the deputy Prime Minister Mamra is in a tour to call for support from some allies or some of Algeria's key partners.
Yeah, you have experts who are now warning Algeria could cascade in the direction of war-torn Syria if differences are not resolved speedily. Is this a concern, or rather, is this a legitimate, major concern?
Of course, it's a major concern, because as I said, and I will say it again, we see that millions of people are taken to the streets, and the regime does not really want to let go. And President Bouteflika did not change his bid to extend the elections. And he even reiterated that yesterday in a message, in an address to the people on the occasion of Victory Day here in Algeria, saying that, or reiterating his stance to go forward with this move, which is a challenge to the people, a challenge from the president and the people around him. So, of course, if things continue like this, it might end up to go into the same scenario as in Syria or some other Arab countries that witnessed Arab uprisings. But so far, there are no indications. We're just waiting for a move. We're waiting for some answers from the government. And the government has really failed to answer the demands of the people. Not just actual answers, not just even in interviews. If you see the interview of Prime Minister Nouraddin Bedoui in a press conference that he held with his Deputy Prime Minister Mamra, when they were asked questions from journalists, and believe me, no question was answered. They did not go to the point. They kept talking about the national conference that would bring the opposition and the government together to talk about the future of Algeria, and to talk about a new constitution, talking about a new constitution, but their move was very unconstitutional.
We see the newly appointed Deputy Prime Minister Ramtane Lamamra launching a tour of allied countries seeking support. He visited Moscow just on Tuesday. Do we know why Moscow first?
I would say Moscow first, because Russia is a very important partner to Algeria since the independence. For example, most of Algeria's arms deals are with Russia. There is a big exchange between Algeria and Russia, and probably he started with Russia because if he went to France, if he went to the Elysee, that would be a big challenge to the people, because people have spoken about Emmanuel Macron's statements about Algeria's protests and about Washington's statements. So, for example, if it was France, that would be a big fail. That would be a big mistake from the government. So I think they are starting with Russia and probably going to other countries asking for support, because, as I said, they really don't have any other options. They want some support from other countries. But going back to the last question, this is one of the scenarios that might lead to a war-torn Algeria, like what happened in war-torn Syria, because we know that Russia had a very important role in this war, and that's what we don't want in Algeria. So the people are angry about this bid for support from foreign countries. People don't want foreign interventions. We don't want foreign interventions. We can solve the problem with the regime. It is between the hands of the people, and the people are calling for demands, but the government is not answering so far. So I don't think that foreign intervention or foreign consultations or that would help in any way. I think it's an internal issue, and the government should listen to the calls of the people.
You know, one of the key facets of Algerian politics is the trade union movement. I mean, yesterday we saw that the trade unions turning down an invitation by the new prime minister to negotiations. Is this perhaps an indication of an antagonistic relationship between the trade union movement and the new prime minister moving forward?
Totally, of course, because if you know about the trade unions in Algeria, they are very strong, but at the same time, they've been calling for their rights. We're talking about their social and economic rights. We're not talking about political rights. And now they want to drag them into the political scene. So, for example, lots of unions said that you're calling for our help now, and we've been calling for your help for the past 20, 30 or 40 years. For example, education unions, they've been suffering for the last 20 years, asking for demands, and they haven't been answered. So right and now they think that it's the best time to call on the unions to support the government in their to form a new government, and that's what they did not accept. Just yesterday, 19 unions turned down the invitation of Prime Minister Nourdine Bidwi. So here you understand. So there is political awareness, even by the unions, by the people, and the unions are saying that they are siding with the people, they're not siding with the government.
Now that the trade unions are being sought after being neglected for years, is this an indication perhaps that there's the change or the balance of forces is now changing?
Indeed, the balance of forces is changing. The unions are in the side of the people. The unions are with the people. The police are with the people. Most of the institutions, the judges, the lawyers, the teachers, the students, everybody, and they belong to the people. So nobody is supporting the regime, and the regime is trying to play every single card. So they opted for the unions now. And if you know, just a couple of weeks ago, the Secretary General of the Algerian Workers' Union, the Secretary General, said, which is one of the biggest supporters of Abdelaziz Bouteflika, said that it's an obligation for the unions to go and vote and cast their ballots for Abdelaziz Bouteflika, which is very ridiculous. It's kind of an obligation to the unions to support Abdelaziz Bouteflika. It's something that they did not accept, and they're not going to accept it. And every union, as I said, is with the people, and they represent the people.
All right, Oussama, thank you so much for your time.